This is TWiT.
How did you get involved with open source?
Actually, I just got interested in Linux and open source in the 98-ish. I was a teenager at the time, and I was watching, I'm pretty sure it was ZDTV at the time, versus when it became Tech TV. It was there was an episode where on the screensavers, Leo was interviewing Linus Torvalds, and he was explaining like the different operating system, and I was just wanted to try out things, and I didn't actually get a chance to try at the time. It took me another year before I found a friend who had cable internet so I could actually download the ISO to try it out. But I was interested in the general aspect of open source around 98, 99. So it was just mainly just because I saw the interview on ZDTV.
Wow, so that was really inspiring to you. That's really amazing. And so have you been working with open source since then?
Yeah, I've been working on or so many projects I can't remember all of them, but I've been contributing to various Linux distributions, some software projects, many things that people have heard of. Like as far as software, I've contributed to Kdenlive, Kodi, OBS in some ways. That's just Open Broadcaster Studio for those who are not aware, and various different things like that. But I've also contributed to like communities around distributions. Like the latest version of Kubuntu has a lot of influence for my design style, because I'm also, not only am I an enthusiast for Linux and open source, I'm also a designer, a writer, and a marketer. So it kind of like accidentally fell pretty well into like the needs of a lot of communities. I kind of provide a unique experience for them. So like the Ubuntu, the Kubuntu 1804 release has so many things that if you compare Kubuntu versus any other Plasma desktop, you'll see that like just immediately there's a massive design difference, and that's what I had a hand in. And
how did you get exposed to podcasting?
Well, actually, I started working with the Jupiter Broadcasting people when they were doing the Linux Action Show. So I started producing content for them 6-7 years ago, something like that. And so after I kind of wanted to be a part of not only making it, but I wanted to have control of whatever the content I was making. So I branched out and started making my own stuff. And then eventually that became the This Week in Linux podcast, as well as another podcast.
And what is that like to do that?
Well, the This Week in Linux is an interesting situation because like every piece of it is me. So the research, the collection of the different topics, the graphics, the switching, the editing, all that stuff is me. So there's a lot of work involved in it that a lot of times that podcasters don't typically have to deal with, because if you don't do video, you don't have to. A lot of podcasts don't do video, so they can skip that part. But I'm a visual person. As a designer, it kind of just felt right to do that. So I have all these different effects and transitions and fades and animations and all this other stuff that I do like during live while I record with OBS. So the reason why I'm contributing to OBS is because there's a lot of things that I wanted that weren't working well. So I made some tweaks and sent them to them. And like overall, it's just more like the making the show is really fun. Mainly, I do the same thing that you guys do, where you do the live streaming. I switched to doing live streaming because it gave me like a different dynamic. A couple times I will admit that I have been wrong on the show, and people in the live chat was like, well, here's where you actually kind of messed up. You might want to fix that. And then you'll see like this little weird cut where it's like, hey, I mentioned this one thing I should probably correct really quick.